Hey all, Steve from GuitarNiche here. What are we working on today? We have a Mexican-made 2011 Strat with some really nasty fret sprout. I mean, this is a bologna slicer. We are in February. This time of year is dry and nasty. The owner of this guitar said he had it stored for some few months or so, and it definitely shrank back. The point of the video is we have to deal with this. And being that this is a maple neck, it's going to be an interesting process because we want to deal with the finish on the side. We don't want to, make it worse than it already is. If we have to do some touch-up, so be it. But still, we got to get these fret ends dealt with. We have essentially two approaches here. One is to rehydrate and reduce the shrinkage, which is fine, okay? But the chances of it coming back are pretty much 100%. So you're better off to deal with it as it is, get rid of it, and let the neck do its thing, expand and contract. The basic geometry is still in good shape, so the neck hasn't been compromised, severely in any way. So it's really just, a few thou that has to come off the side of the neck, and I'll give you an idea. Oh, jeez. I mean, that's catching like big time. It's kind of shredding the edge of my tongue depressor here. That's nuts. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Shreddies. All right. Breakfast of champions. Awesome. Okay, so anyway, the first step will be getting the neck off the guitar. Now, mind you, before I go too far into this, I could deal with this with the neck on the guitar, and of course with some instruments, the set necks and stuff like that, you have no choice. But given the choice, take the neck off and deal with it properly. So what is our process for taking out these this fret sprout? Okay. Tools. How are we gonna deal with this? Look what I got. Isn't that awesome? No, not gonna use it. Hate it. Hate it with a passion. Hate it with a passion. It's clunky. It's just, why did I buy this? Okay. Because I saw other people using it and it looked like a pretty cool tool. And then I bought it and I used it and I went, not for me. And I actually wound up in one situation, I was, being very careful with it, and I wound up scoring the side of the fretboard. Not the body, the side of the fretboard. It's a big block and it sucks. Anyway, I've said too much. So, what are we going to use? We're going to use a large flat file, which needs a cleaning, okay? And a couple of other small files. These files have different feels, and that's what it comes down to. So that's kind of my point here. If you're going to use files, you got to have a file card. Now this particular file I've used for I don't know how many decades, and marked on the top. Before I continue, there's no blocks holding, that I can hang on to and stuff like that. I just prefer to do things by hand, by feel, by feedback directly from a non-bulky machine, you might say, or tool. The reason I have the top of this marked as such is because this particular file has a kick on the end, which I use to an advantage all the time. Files with distortions are your friends. If you're going to use a file with the, check it, and if it has the right kind of distortion, it's not going to do it. Oh, there you go. hear it a little bit. But this glass is actually sunken a little bit. Did you know glass is fluid? I didn't know that. Glass is actually classified as a fluid. Go figure. File has a very, very, very super slight kick. I should practice some safety here. So now I got some masking on this, and I'm just going to have a quick rundown of this and a quick feel of it and see what I can gain from the feedback of the file. Night and day right off the bat. Right off the bat. Now the reason I use a larger file like this is because it's just, you know, surface area, right? But if I really want to get down in the weeds, I'm going to use one of my smaller files because I can get more finesse and more feedback out of the smaller file as it bites into the material. And again, this particular file is marked, slight bend in it, which I use to my advantage. This comes in real handy if I'm working on a super straight edge and I want to avoid a slight kick out in the instrument somewhere, such as a proud nut. Okay. And the other thing is, I'll have to show you this way. I'm using my thumb as a stop, if you would, so that, oh yeah, that's great. So it's hard to describe, but my thumb is giving me feedback as to where I am on the fretboard, the angle I'm working with, and right away, that is almost flush. Just that little bit of work. Now there's going to be some finish that's going to pop off. It's going to be minimal. I doubt I will touch it up because the chances of it popping off again or becoming, you know, a disfigurement down the road are pretty high. And it's just, yeah, it's more efficient to just let nature take its course with the cosmetics of the instrument, you know. It's being relicked. And I can feel that metal. Certainly don't want to hit the wood. More through here. And this file feels great. Now, just for example, if I take this one, this has a different cut and a different feel. Yeah, this doesn't feel right to me. This one, that's got the, yeah, that's the one. That's the one. It's so, I'm sorry, I can't express it any other way than feedback, physical feedback, tactile feedback from your tool. Don't ever underestimate it. And this goes for when you play the guitar too, because a guitar that has issues versus a guitar that is very well set up, night and day. An instrument that's finely tuned is a tactile thing that is much more enjoyable to play when it is dialed in, that is. Okay, anyway, enough blah, blah, blah. When it is enough, I'm just starting to kiss the finish. I'm concentrating on the side here, and once I get the side of the fretboard clean, then I will work on the bevel. Okay, we're talking about maybe 10th thou or so. I'm going to be judicious about the amount of chamfering I do here so that I maintain as much play area on top of the fretboard as possible. You know, a little bit off the edge here versus chamfering here. I would prefer to keep the edges flush and keep as much of the actual fret faces as possible within reason, because if the angle is like, if it's too acute, it's going to feel too bumpy. It's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to feel natural. So we have to find that happy medium ground. Okay, I hope you're that's making some sense. Okay, and okay, so where are we at? It's close. It's close. Now I have to take a little bit of that bevel. I'm going to do a little bit of the bevel. You have to be very, very careful about the process. Anyway, so the fret is sticking out this way. That means the tang is proud here, but the actual fret itself is also proud of the edge of the fretboard. So I have to knock that back. So I'm balancing the what has to go and what can go to keep the instrument or the neck as uniform and playable as possible. Now there's some junk going on down there. So whether this is a 35 as recommended or not, I don't know. I just know that it's not a 45 and it's not a 90. It's something that makes sense. And I'm letting the file tell me what's going on. If I'm still feeling the resistance of the metal, well, then I'm still hitting metal. But as the frets push out, they also push out a little bit of wood, and then you're going to start kissing the wood. You're going to start kissing the finish a little bit. There's some chipping there, but that's got dirt in it from previous. Okay, we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. Pretty good. Now these edges here, the edges on the ends of the frets are going to be, they're going to have a little bit of catch on them, and I'll deal with that when the time comes. Angle looks pretty good, and what I will do is sight down the edge of the neck here this way, and I want to make sure I have a straight line so that I'm looking at the corner edge of this fretboard here, and I don't want to see it, I want to see it nice and like straight. And that looks pretty good. That means, what that tells me, that visual feedback tells me that the amount of material being taken off is consistent on down the line. So I'm not overworking any one particular area, okay? Now, I'm gonna use the big boy here. What this will do is, this is going to accomplish two things. It's going to level out things neatly, let's say. It gives and it has a secondary cut that will take out, if there's any chatter left by this one, provided it doesn't produce chatter. Chatter is that dimpling or the wavy or the little cuts you'll see in the end in materials sometimes. It will override the any chatter that's existing from the previous file. Oh, that feels nice. That's great. Super. That when it glides, I know that it's riding on the frets. And if I keep at it, it's going to start riding on the finish, and that's where we don't want to get there just yet, or ever. Okay? And that is Night and day. Now the last thing I have to deal with here, there's sharp edges there, okay? Side is great, but the edges are still gonna have a little bit of bite to them, okay? And there we go. Okay, I wanna make sure well, let's do it this way. I wanna make sure I take care of that appropriately. This is my auger file. And again, it's one of those things that has a little kick. I don't know if you can catch that properly or not, but it also has a very fine cut to it as a tool for doing this kind of work. I will take this over a dedicated fret end file, which I have, any day. And it's really that simple. I'm not trying to reshape the end of the fret. I'm just trying to take off that little sharp edge. I'm letting the file do the work. I don't want to push it because it'll dig into the finish. It'll, cause more problems than we're trying to remedy. And that's like, compared to the other side, which I haven't worked on yet, it's night and day, just like that. And with a little bit of polish, now we have something that we can work with. It's comfortable. We'll be able to play and not worry about too much. I'll take some beauty shots of that as it is in this current state, so you can see what's what. As I proceed here, the next step is I'm gonna have to do the other side, of course, and then I'll start reassembling the guitar and polishing up the frets. And we have the treble side and the bass side taken care of as far as fret sprout goes. And why is the neck on the guitar? It's for reasons of stability, so that I can work on it without having to manipulate the neck too much. I'm gonna mask off the neck, and you might be wondering why are you doing that? Well, it's how I'm masking off the neck. Okay, I'm going to deal with only the fret ends. So let's get that evened out a little bit, because I'll polish the tops of the frets when I get to that point, but at this particular point right now, I want to deal with just the fret ends, okay? So I'm going to go through a number of polishing processes to get there. And keep in mind that our focus here is the fret sprout and dealing with that. Now I have my handy dandy stack of micro mesh. I believe I have a link for this in the description. So if you want to grab this this stack, it's well worth the investment. It's like peanuts. It really doesn't cost a whole lot, but it goes from 1,500 all the way up to 12,000. That'll do. Anyway, now here's the secret weapon here, okay? This is a piece of relatively stiff rubber. Sometimes they ship with these things, but you want to use a tool or an aid that is more suited to your purpose than just a wide generic sort of application. So this has a certain kind of give that will work well with the the application in this instance. Okay, and I'm just gonna wrap that around there. All right, so I'm gonna start with some 1,500 and very carefully hit that. Because it's 1,500. It's not taking off a whole lot of material. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm just going to give that a real quick inspection just to make sure we're on the right track. Doesn't take much, okay? It really doesn't take much. And you don't want to get too aggressive. You know, like to start with 1,000 would be maybe okay, but you're gonna be taking off more material. With I would put it this way: with a open pore neck like a rosewood or an ebony or something like that, I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. But with a lacquered neck or a painted finished neck like this, fretboard that is, you gotta exercise some caution. And you go right on top of that. Looks good, by the way. 32 maybe? Yeah, let's do 32. Why not? The rule of thumb is double up. If you want to get through stuff like this relatively quickly, double up your abrasive number. That is, if you're using 1,000, go to 2,000. Using 1,500, go to 3,000 or whatever is close, okay? You can add more levels if you want, of course, but you're also adding more labor. Now, whether the end result is any better is a matter of material, hardness, technique, application, all that good stuff. Okay, see how I keep that on a bit of an angle? Okay, that's so, I'm not catching on the ends of the phone. 4,000? No. 6,000? I think I'm gonna go for 6,000. Why not? I'm gonna go for 6,000. Now, before I carry on with this, here's a little anecdotal comment I'll make. The year was 1986, 87, and the shop I was working at, it was just two people, myself and the owner. I was the fabricator, and I did industrial polishing, I did industrial lacquer and stuff. And this job was like 10 years. But at some point, this was during the years I mentioned, there was a little bit of a recession. And so work was a little slack. So the owner, who was quite the entrepreneur in the most famous sense, bought a Porsche 911 in Europe, had it shipped over to flip it. And it sat and it started to develop rust bubbles. Ooh, that was not cool. Well, after getting a number of quotes from a few body men, they all said it has to be stripped and repainted. And so guess who got the work? He says, "Can you do it?" And I said, "I'll give it a shot." So I stripped a Porsche, I think it was 70-something Porsche 911. I sandblasted it, found all the holes. The oil tank, which was the primary cooling system as well, because it's kind of basically a glorified Volkswagen, was full of holes. I brazed it and filled the holes with brazing wire. Anyway, there's so many stories about that experience. It's just insane. But I'll tell you this: the driver's side door panel, I would say the bottom quarter to 1/3 was rotten. It was nothing but Bondo and stuff, and filled with newspaper and wood. Like it was like, what the heck? I took out all the junk. I got a piece of sheet metal, had it rolled, and fitted it. Cut it to the shape of the door. Crimped in the edges, and spot welded it, and filled it in, and bondoed it so that it blended into the remainder of the door. And I'm going, now how the heck do I blend this? How do I keep it? Because there's no straight edges on a Porsche. Let's put it that way. There's no straight edges on a Porsche. So I'm going, okay, I got to get this looking like glass. And what I found was that if I took a paint roller with a certain depth of nap and wrapped the right grit of sandpaper around that, I could shape any curve, any surface I wanted. And that included the fenders, which needed a whole lot of work, and like I said, no straight lines on a Porsche. Using that kind of thinking and approach, I was able to get all the body lines back to where they should be. And when it got repainted, it came back. I remember the day it came back from the paint shop, and I looked at it and went, Holy crap. I mean, it worked like a charm. My point is, that experience taught me that, you know, you don't have to go buy the book or off the shelf for techniques, tips, and stuff. Figure it out. Figure it out. Okay? Use your brain, use critical thinking, and figure it out. And you'll be surprised what you come up with. This is the offshoot of that thinking. So there you are, sports fans. Okay? Anyway, back to the story. So this is, and I totally forgot, 6,000. So we're using 6,000. And this is really just putting the real, you know, final touches on the edge here. Your hand will naturally wear the rest of this in. All I'm doing with this is just making it look nice, and we're accelerating that process. All shite and briny. One day I'll tell the story of where that came from. There you have it. Now I'll take a glamour shot of that so you can see the end result, and then the rest of it really is really academic. Polishing the top will be a matter of I'll use the you know, the slot, and because the frets, the tops are actually in pretty good shape. I got to check them for high spots and stuff like that, but we'll get to that point, and we'll give it a last look at when it's ready. This is the final result. To get to this point where everything is cleaned up and comfortable, well, we took care of the fret sprout as documented, and then I took, well, we wound up having a couple high frets. One was, I believe it was 14 or 15, and I was able to knock that down with my Stumac hammer. And at the fourth fret was nasty. It was actually quite proud. I had to dress that out and appease it a little bit with the hammer, but it turned out just fine. You know, got a nice polish on it. There's still some minor fret wear, but the purpose of the job was not to dress or level the frets. It was to take care of the fret sprout itself and clean up the fretboard, which is exactly, you know, what happened. And I started with if I disregard, let me put it this way, if I disregard the leveling portion, I went from 1,500 to 32 or 36, I believe, and then 6,000, and finished up with my secret weapon. Now, if you want to know what that secret weapon is, you'll have to watch another video, and I'll leave a link for it in the description. Okay. Anyway, it makes polishing life a lot easier. Anyway, we will catch you on the flip. Thanks for coming out. Hope you got something out of that. I always appreciate the new eyeballs. Read the description below. Okay, that's where you find your Easter eggs and some fun stuff and some freebies, stuff like that. And visit GuitarNiche.com. As always, play loud, have fun, have a great day. Cheers. Thanks for coming out. See ya.